Rawr!
I'm angry about cats.
When did we all get this dumb? Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about cats.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef. Come on, man. Use your brain. The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now. Oh, yeah. It's the Why I'm Angry podcast, burning some midnight oil. We tried to get on a little earlier. I apologize. We had some technical difficulties, like cameras going in and out, some Wi-Fi issues. I have a 1.5-year-old that needed to go to bed, so I decided to be the dad and go on up and help her out, go to bed, and now I'm back down, ready to go. We rebooted the system. We should be all good now. So that should take care of it. Should have taken care of itself. We should have a good hour of recording here, and we'll have a great podcast. So let's get it started. I'm the chef. I'm here in the amazing Man Cave Studio, the Freestyle Man Cave Studio, if you want to be fully correct. And here just getting ready to bring you some current events. The headlines I went through, you're going to see that they're a little more in-depth and a little deeper. We're going to go through them a little deeper today. And so they kind of started off with the big three is the Maui wildfires, the Georgia indictment of President Trump, and the anything Russia. I looked back through like 6 days since we were on last, and every day had something about Russia or President Trump. So one day there was a woman who had tried to start was part of a plan to take over to assassinate President Zelensky. So there's a lot about Russia. And, honestly, to me, I'm not always sure everything that they say is on the up and up. Like the guy who started running back to Russia after he was angry about the system, and he fought against his own people for a bit. And then they said, oh, no, don't worry about it. If you look at what, Putin's done in the past and stuff like that, there's no, if he thought he could destroy this guy and be crush him and show power, he would have. Otherwise, he was pretty worried because he gave him basically a free ride back home. So that's, he said, oh, you can go on to exile and, live your life. And anybody that wants to rejoin the military, they can rejoin without suffering any penalties and stuff. So I'm pretty sure if he thought he could take him down quickly and easily and show power, he's doing that, because that's the kind of guy Putin is. He's not just oh, it's okay, we allow insurrection in our ranks here. So when I see the Russian stuff, I'm kind of yes, there's some element of truth to it, but at the same point, I don't know. So I didn't put any one item from Russia, I don't think, on here. We'll see later. But I did want to get to the Maui wildfires. They did say that the death toll is up to 110. They've got about 1,300 people missing still. They've got 185 crew personnel out looking for bodies and for anybody that may be still alive. They got about 20 cadaver dogs out there, and if you look at the pictures, it's pretty crazy. Like me and my wife stayed out there for our 10th anniversary, and it's been kind of funny because we stayed on the Big Island and we spent a day on the volcano that erupted just last year or the year before, and so that was on fire, and then we had a luau where the wildfire is now in Maui, and so now that's on that actually I looked it up today. I looked at the geo tracking on the photos and stuff to make sure, because it's been about 5 years or so now, and that it was the same neighborhood, which was actually kind of a nice neighborhood. There's a reason we didn't stay in that neighborhood, is because we just couldn't afford to stay in that neighborhood. We stayed a little south on Maui, in a little less affluent area with some nice people from New Zealand, that had bought the place 4 or 5 years before we came and visited, and they had like little breakfast spread. It was awesome. But anyhow, like it's just strange to me. Like, I've seen some of the the underworld back conspiracy theorists saying that Oprah's house is fine, so obviously it's the rich and the famous that had set this up, and they want to claim that part of the island for themselves. And if that's true, it's not for some reason. There is a reason coming, and we should be probably worried about that. So just just cross your fingers that that's just not not the case. But they are saying that this is the Maui disaster is one of the worst, deadliest fires since 1918. So there is already 3 lawsuits against the electric company, claiming the Hawaiian Electric, claiming the company should be held responsible for the wildfire and the deaths. They service 95% of Hawaiian residences, and they said criticisms for keeping the power on while high winds knocked down trees and branches, impacting the power lines, and that they say that they think that was what started the fires. But at this point, the investigators have not done a full investigation, and so there's no like definitive this is what caused the fires type thing. So I did look over, if you look at the National Weather Service fire map, or the National Parks Department fire map, if you include Canada into that, everything's on fire. Canada's on fire. Northeast Canada's on fire because it's affected us in Ohio with the smoke coming down and stuff. I'm not sure that that's still not like some kind of test to send, see what a nuclear fallout in that area would do. But that's a conspiracy theory, obviously. I'm a conspiracy theorist or whatever. But anyhow, that's still on fire. They actually just evacuated 20,000 people, 200,000 people from the Yellowknife area, hoping that it doesn't get down towards them, but they're fighting it off right now, trying to do backdrafts and stuff like that. Or clearing burns and stuff like that, so that they can slow that down. And then if you look at the western part of the country, that's on fire. It's just one of those one of those deals where like just where sorry, I just lost the camera, so I'm working on that again now. Yep, I lost the camera. So, anyhow, so just with all the fires and everything, I mean, California's on fire. It just, to me, if you look at the map, it's all on fire. It's kind of like the last time I made brisket. I turned around, the brisket's on fire, the grill's on fire. I'm using this like makeshift smoker grill thing that I just kind of worked on myself a little bit, and so it was on fire. You know, I turn around and the hay and my truck is on fire. My truck's on fire. The grass down around the truck is on fire. I had to drive the truck away, throw the hay out of the back of the truck. Everything was on fire. It was just on fire. And I feel like that's kind of the way that things are right now in the world, and we're at least around the U.S. here. We're just all on fire. So, there we go. So on to the next thing. Second or third big thing is the President Trump was indicted in Georgia. Former President Donald Trump and 18 other defendants have been named in a grand jury indictment for their roles in allegedly interfering with the 2020 election results in Georgia. And they have until August 25th to turn themselves in. Others named in the indictment are Rudy Giuliani, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and a Trump legal advisor, John Eastman. The indictment was unsealed Monday. The charges on 19 defendants with 41 total charges, including violating Georgia's Racketeering, Influenced, and Corruption Organizations Act. Which, if you have any thoughts or any history on that kind of thing, it's called RICO. And basically it was made up as a law to catch mobsters. Anyone who would basically formulate a plan to commit crimes. I mean, that's kind of the best way to kind of sum it up is if you formulated the plan, you were part of a RICO scheme, and then they could arrest you. And because a lot of times in the mob, if you've seen the movies, that the leader doesn't actually do the mob hits. He doesn't actually kill someone. He doesn't actually go and put his hands on the laundered money and stuff. And so a lot of times, they could only get the small time guys, and the final guy never, he was never on tape or never, on video, getting caught for being on the racketeering issue, being on the actual crime of robbing the bank or whatever. So they put together a conspiracy to commit a crime. Basically, they call it racketeering because it's basically it's a gang orientation. So, or gang deal, or back then it wasn't gangs, it was the mob. And so, I mean, basically they're just, they're trumping up the charges, not to be like, no pun intended or anything. They just, it's one of those deals where, we're trying to overreach. I mean, if this is the case, then they could get, then they could get Hillary Clinton's group for the same type of deal. And honestly, if you look at the list of people who have gone away after there have been issues in her camp, you might be able to get her really for the RICO charges, because it kind of seems like, loose ends have been tied up and things of that nature. That's another story for another day. But she did, she did put lawsuits into place to try to alter the status of the election, the results of the election in Wisconsin and Michigan, and I think there was one other state that was just that was disputed in 2016. So, this just, in the end, if he gets arrested and goes to jail for none of this, like he just doesn't go to jail for any of this stuff, then it doesn't seem to hurt him one bit. It only helps him. It only emboldens what he's doing. So I just don't see where this is really like all that big of a deal. Like, this isn't just, this is not hurting him in any way. So, that being said, I mean, unless he gets a backwards judge, I don't see any of this really going anywhere. So, to news that I thought was kind of cool, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. A genetically modified kidney taken from a donor pig has functioned normally after being transplanted into a brain-dead patient more than a month ago. Doctors revealed yesterday that they basically put a kidney from a genetically modified pig in a brain-dead patient. They had taken out both of their kidneys. I don't know if they had to have their kidneys taken out or any of that. But that person has survived on machines for the last month. So basically they said the success relies on advanced gene editing techniques. There's a sugar molecule known as alpha-gal. It's produced in most mammals, but it's not produced in humans. And that the presence of that sugar normally causes acute rejection by your body after your surgery. And so with that, basically, that would then put you in rejection of the actual organ, and you'd have to either get a new one or you'd have to get that out of your body, because then your body is fighting that with all its might, because it thinks it's an alien object in your body, basically. So this, if they can, get these pigs genetically altered so that they don't, pigs are kind of the same size organs as what we have. That gives people a new option of, we already put like pig valves into hearts and things of that nature. And they don't last forever, obviously, but they do last. They are able to be, extend out the time that your heart can work. And so, that starts to beg the question, though, if we're genetically altering animals, which I feel like we've already genetically altered animals when we, breed them a certain way or something like that, or breed them for certain things. But I feel like this is taking it almost a step farther. And so you're now genetically altering a pig so that, you can now harvest human-like organs, but at the same time, 8,000 patients that were waiting for a possible transplant died last year while waiting for organs. And, in the grand scheme of things, if you do the math, 8,000 isn't that bad. But if we could provide a better option for these people to get an organ, if we could just provide a safe alternative that, maybe this doesn't last for, more than 10 years, or maybe it just doesn't last more than 5 years even. Because it's from a pig or whatever, and they're not, they aren't created to live as long. But at least with this, you've got a viable way to live a better quality of life. I don't know. It's one of those deals where it's tough, because I do have a cousin that has had kidney transplants, and I'm sure if you said, I know that she's had to have 2, and so I'm sure if you had said in the beginning, we could give you this pig one, and it will last you 5 to 10 years. We can still put you on the list or whatever to getting one. Blah, blah, blah. That helps them not have to sit. That helps you not have to sit on dialysis for however long it takes till you get your kidneys or you get a donor. And that's got to help your body. Because when you're not on dialysis, like when you're waiting on your kidney and you're not on dialysis, then you have to go to get dialysis so often. Your body's not 100% like functioning the way it's supposed to be. It's not filtering out your bad things as well. So you just, that's got to give more wear and tear on your body. So I think if they can do it in an ethical way, then maybe it works out, and it, and it's good, and and it can be used. But at the same time, it begs that question of, like, are we playing God? Are we doing too much to people to, are we trying to keep them alive too much longer than what their time is? And I know with my cousin, like, she was only 18, 19. I think she was only like 16 when she first started into kidney failure. And she was super healthy in sports and stuff like that. And so it really, the kidney transplants have really given her a life, not just like, prolonged her life at 50 or 60 to, 65 or 70, like actually given her a life, because she's the same age as I am. So she's, lived another 20 some years since she got that first kidney. And so in that case, you almost you can't say it's not valuable. It's almost invaluable to be able to get a transplant and to get that new kidney. So it's one of those hard gray area type things that you want to have a stance and say we can't genetically alter animals. But in the end, the Bible does say that we have dominion over animals, and I don't know whether it says you can't, that you're not able to use them for your, to replace body parts or whatever. I just don't know. I mean, we can use them to eat bacon, to harvest steaks, and in that, that's one of those things I'd have to really talk to some people that I really go to for wisdom and stuff on that. So that's one of those deals where you just you get some wisdom and you formulate your own ideas on it. Like I don't always just like I may go to the person for wisdom, but I may not. I may take time to formulate my own plan. So, yeah, that one's a tough one to really work out, and I'll have to think about it more on where I feel on that one, because I mean we're already pulling pig valves out of their hearts. Now we're genetically modifying them. We're working on taking out the sugar molecule. It does seem like we're doing quite a bit here. Breaking news, Little League World Series. The Ohio team is out. Yep, we lost today. I was just watching the score to see, and there must have been some kind of delay or something. And then it just went past midnight here. So I would guess that they called the game. There must have been some kind of like rain out or something. Last time I had looked, we were ahead 3-0, and now when I checked the score here, before we came on, it was 3-4. Great Lakes region versus the West. And so it looks like we are out. They called the game 4-3 for the West. And that's sad. I'm sad. The Ohio team is out. But it's been cool to watch the Little League World Series. Some of those kids are good. They're throwing in the low to mid 70s as 10, 11, and 12-year-olds. So you think about that. I think I only ever topped out around high 70s when I was in high school or even after that. So in other news, in Montana, 16 environmental activists between the ages of 5 and 22 sued the state and won. The youths argued a 2011 law preventing climate impact from being considered when approving fossil fuel permits violates the state constitution, which guarantees a clean and healthful environment in Montana for the present and the future generations. The state has promised to appeal. Basically, it's pretty honest and clear right there. If your state constitution guarantees a clean and healthful environment in Montana for present and future, it just depends on what you consider environmental or climate impact is. I'm sure they have to do environmental studies. And obviously with those environmental studies, there is some kind of climate impact study done anymore. I'm not sure how much, like, whether you believe in impact, that the climate is impacted by fossil fuels or by any of that. I mean, that's up to you. Sometimes I wonder if it's really anything that we can actually control, if it's just a big old boulder like on Indiana Jones and we're just running ahead, or we're just trying to stop the inevitable rock slide. And since the Ice Age, it's obviously been getting warmer and warmer, and one day it'll be so warm that either we'll adapt and overcome, or we'll go the way of the buffalo or the dinosaur, or whatever you want to say we'll go the way of, because we become extinct. So, hey, if you're 5 to 22 and you get enough going on to sue the state, more power to you, man. More power to you. Swiss bank giant UBS has finally settled up with the Department of Justice for their alleged role in the 2008 financial crisis. They agreed upon $1.4 billion in civil penalties over alleged legacy misconduct. Basically, when the housing market crashed in 2008, they basically said that banks were giving out predatory loans to people who they knew couldn't pay it off, but because there was mortgage insurance called Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, all they had to do then was dump those backwards mortgages into those insurance companies, and then they could basically say that because of those, because they were backwards, they and write them right off the books, and that caused the banking collapse. So up to this day, up to today, they've basically cycled back $36 billion, which really, in the grand scheme of things, is kind of a drop in the bucket. So if you're still listening to the podcast, you have gotten past the people online. This is now your very own spot. No one else has heard this. This is exclusive sound bites. So, next. Clarence Avant, known as the Black Godfather of entertainment beyond, has died at the age of 92. He was the name behind the names, working with musicians from Michael Jackson to Snoop Dogg, advising athletes like Jim Brown and Hank Aaron, and fundraising for President Clinton and Obama. Director Saeed Rustei, sentenced to prison in Iran for screening his award-winning film Layla's Brother at the 2022 Cannes Film Festival. He didn't get the right permissions to show it at the film festival, and so Iran said that it broke the confidences laws with Iran, and basically it showed Iran's issues. Basically, it's about a building that collapsed in Iran back a few years ago, and they said that it showed Iran's weaknesses, and the government didn't like the way it depicted Iran as weak, and as it just didn't like the way it depicted Iran. So basically they sent this guy to prison. He's supposed to go to 6 months in jail or in prison. He's probably going to do, him and the producer are going to do like 9 days in prison, they said, as long as they don't make any more films for 5 years. So basically, they're taking away his livelihood so that he doesn't have to go to prison. So that's like us, we put you in jail for 5 years. There, they just take away your livelihood, your way of making, they just make you do something that you don't want to do for 5 years so that they can shut you up. When we talk about, losing freedoms here, we've still got a little ways to go, but it's kind of like the pig kidneys, if we start out with this, if we start out with hate speech, then when someone gets offended, does that now fall under the Hate Speech Act? And then, where does the First Amendment, keep you, where are you able to, to apply the First Amendment, and where is hate, where's the line? And what I always worry is, who decides that line? I don't get to decide it. It's kind of like harassment. If you tell a joke in your workplace now and someone doesn't like it, and it makes someone uncomfortable, then that's harassment. So now if you say something and it makes someone uncomfortable, is that now hate speech? And we've seen it already in Canada, and that where they're a little ahead of us on some of this stuff, some of this, liberal or progressive things that even churches are now, being called on the carpet for hate speech. I'm sure, a few services ago when we talked about the trans movement and things of that nature, I'm sure that would be considered in Canada hate speech, and I'm sure that in the Facebook of Canada or whatever, we've been kicked off or something. So I don't, this just shows to go you that we still have a little while. We still have some freedoms. If it's all doom and gloom in your head, there's still more doom to come, if that makes you feel better. So, we could see some more doom. So along similar lines, we just passed the timeline of 2-year date from when we pulled out of Afghanistan. And if you look at the highlights of how that has gone, it's kind of one of those sad, it runs like a sad women's suffrage in reverse style deal, where they've taken away the rights to go to school. They had made an agreement with the UN and the peacekeeping as we were leaving that they would allow women to go to school over 6th grade, and then they took that away, and then they, just even this year, in July, they took away the ability to even have beauty salons and things of that nature. They also took away their ability to go to parks and gyms. So, again, freedom-wise, think about that. It may not be women in our country. It may be whatever. It could be like World War II in Germany. It could be Jews. It could be, Christians. It could be white people, just in general. If you're not gay, or you're not another minority, then you can't go out. Your presence is intimidating. And like we talked about just a few minutes ago about hate speech and that, like I said, when your presence is intimidating, then, who decides this, that next thing. So, it was a rough situation. We were there losing men. They didn't want us there. I understand that. We're not the world's police. We did a great job of pushing back on some of the devil's agendas, and things like that. But I think, we have some issues here. We could take care of some of those issues better with resources here if we weren't pushing out resources some. But at the same time, if we want to be a country of a certain moral standard, then we didn't do a very good job there. And if that's the case, and I don't even know that we want to be that country anymore. I don't think the people of the United States of America want to be that country. So, it's just one of those just terrible, terrible deals. It's whatever. Looks like the Zuckerberg Elon Musk fight is off. It was on Monday. They had it set. They were going to be on their respective social medias behind a paywall, raise some money for veterans or somebody, and now it is off. I guess Zuckerberg says that Musk won't confirm a date. They try to work with Dana White to make it official UFC charity deal, and they couldn't get a date set. Now he's saying, let's confirm a date. There's no date set. Sounds like Elon Musk is worried about how good Zuckerberg is, because he said he would like to do a practice round in Zuckerberg's backyard instead. He says, he knows how to reach me. If he ever gets serious, we could do this thing. But until then, I guess he's setting his sights on his next fight, wherever that is, whatever that is, because he's training full time, I guess, now for this. So, continuing in the world of sports, the World Cup finals, Women's World Cup final has been set. It is Spain and England. This is the first ever all-European title match. Or I guess it's the first since 2003. The runners-up match will be Sweden and Australia. England won over Australia last night, punching their ticket. Spain, I watched the Spain and Sweden game. That was a pretty good game. It was like I watched the whole game. Nothing. I stepped away for half a second to take care of the little or the tiny, and all of a sudden 3 goals were scored, and I was like, "What? I missed them all." So it was an interesting soccer match. So since I missed all the goals and stuff. Let's see if there's any other sports related. We did the Little League World Series. China falsified its youth unemployment. Youth unemployment in China is over 21.3%. That's for the 16 to 24 bracket. That's crazy. And you got to think that they don't have like college like we do. Like, there's not an option like, let's go to college. It's more of, I took an acceptance exam to be smart enough or to have an aptitude to go to school, and then they tell you what school, what you're going to go into type thing. So it's not like here where you're just like, woo, I get to go to college. I'm going to go to college and, they're going to give me standard of living payments or something like that. And then I'll pay those back, for the rest of my life or anything. It's, it's get a job or you're good enough to go to school and be somebody. So, the Screen Actors Guild will no longer approve interim agreements for Writers Guild written projects with independent studios. So that means all movies are going to shut down here shortly. Basically, I guess the Screen Actors Guild was allowing independent films to have writers write for them from the Writers Guild, because they felt like they were in line with them. They weren't the big, studios or whatever, and so they were allowing them to still approve agreements and stuff for the writers. But a lot of the writers said that just kind of takes away from what we're doing. Let's cut down all movies so that even independent films don't go. I heard that that'll affect like Matthew McConaughey, one of his movies, some other major actors. So, yeah. So, neuroscientists link certain types of brain injuries to cognitive motor dissociation, where seemingly comatose patients can hear and understand commands but can't physically respond. Not sure how they figured this one out. Oh, well, actually, I read it, and they said they figured out that certain stimuli would work certain areas of the brain in comatose patients. They just were not able to. Somehow they weren't able to like move their bodies and stuff. They were cognitive inside. Isn't that like a horror film or something? That's just like the worst case scenario. If you thought if you were in an accident or something like that, and so then in that accident you were paralyzed, but they didn't. Like you just can't open your eyes or something like that. You're still alive. You can still hear everything, but you can't talk with them in any way. So yeah. So hopefully this way, they'll know before they pull the plug that you're really comatose, or you're just at this point, somehow your motor skills are not, you're disassociated. They say July was the hottest July or hottest month ever. On average, in the 174 years of recording that, it was 2 degrees above the historical baseline, according to government data. And government data is good. It's real good. So, yeah. Bazooka Candy Brands, maker of brands such as Ring Pop or Push Pop, and its namesake Bazooka Gum is to be acquired by a private equity firm for over $700 million, which doesn't seem like that much. When you see like other companies and things that are being acquired for $1 billion or $5 billion or something like that, I mean, $700 million. Like if they've got, Bazooka is pretty big as a candy company. But maybe they're just, being that it's ring pops and push pops and Bazooka Gum and stuff like that. Maybe it's not, hasn't been selling as well and it's in decline or something. I don't know. But yeah, so $700 million doesn't seem like a ton. I mean, you're not buying even, for $700 million, you're not buying 1,000 shares of, Bitcoin or anything like that. So, I mean, 700 million something. So, researchers demonstrate 3D printing of vegan seafood. Woo, that sounds amazing. Basically, it's real similar to lab-grown meat. So, yeah, this is another step. So you get your lab-grown steaks, and now you can get your surf and turf. Woo! That sounds exciting. That just does not inspire me to anything. I just quit cooking. I will no longer be called the chef. I will be called Aaron or something like that. Something dumb like that. This one was an interesting one. Marion, Kansas newspaper and publisher was raided by police after reportedly running stories critical of a local restaurant owner. Press freedom advocates criticize action. The paper owner says they were also actively investigating the police chief for alleged previous sexual misconduct. So probably they got raided based on the fact that they've been investigating the police chief. So, but freedom of the press, like I said, your First Amendment rights are awesome. San Francisco expanded its robo-taxis. So California has had, and I think I even talked about this on there, that they had like rent-a-car pickups with remote activated cars. This goes a step farther. This is self-driving car companies Waymo and Cruise. Basically, they have launched a 24/7 paid driverless service in San Francisco, and basically they've decided to remove most of its limits on operating and charging for rides for the two companies, and just allow the autonomous vehicles to go. More than 40 companies, including Waymo and Cruise, have received permits to test their autonomous car services in San Francisco. Waymo, owned by Alphabet or Google, currently operates 250 autonomous vehicles, while Cruise, owned by General Motors, operates 100 during the day and 300 at night. Officials in San Francisco have argued at times that self-driving cars disrupt traffic, bus routes, and emergency scenes. Cruise has said it's recorded 177 accidents or incidents, different than accidents, in which it had to retrieve a stalled robo-taxi during roughly the first 6 months of this year, while Waymo said it recorded 58 such incidences during a similar time frame. So, I mean, that's almost 300 or 250 cars that are just sitting in the middle with nobody in them. Nobody there to push them off to the side or anything like that, or get them out of the way. At one point, I know with the rental car type thing. They were remote driving them, and they had somebody behind them. They were working on it, on, being an acceptable stall rate or whatever, so that they could run all without the chaser car eventually. And I know they were testing that in San Francisco and also in Las Vegas. So that's interesting to see. We'll see over the next few months how that will go by. So, a U.S. judge revoked Bankman-Fried's $250 million bail package Friday, saying the 31-year-old had tried to influence witnesses at least twice. Bankman-Fried is expected to stay at a metropolitan detention center in Brooklyn until his trial in October. That's a few months. He was previously under home detention with his parents in California. Basically, this is the guy that duped everyone with FTX. So allegedly, because he hasn't gone to court yet. But basically, anybody that had money in FTX, it's gone. And so now they are bringing him up on charges of fraud and things of that nature. So he probably won't get out of jail soon. So, but they did say, he has tried to influence witnesses at least twice now. So they are now putting him in jail. Davion Kimbrough, I did miss this one, 13, becomes the youngest pro soccer player in U.S. history after signing with the Sacramento Republic. 13 years old, signing a contract. Obviously, he wasn't able to do it himself. Beyonce's tour paid $100,000 to Washington, D.C. metropolitan area transit authority to keep trains running after a bad weather storm delayed her concert. Study shows taking as few as 4,000 steps a day is enough to start reducing the risk of dying prematurely of any cause. So if you just get to 4,000, that's enough to reduce the risk of dying prematurely for anything. Being hit by a bus, skydiving incident, accident, any of those things. If you just walk 4,000 steps a day, you're probably reducing your risk of it. The Tampa mayor reels in an unexpected 70 pounds of cocaine, expected to be worth more than $1 million while on a fishing trip in the Florida Keys. Yeah. Reels in unexpected 70-pound cocaine fish. We've had cocaine bears. We've even had cocaine hippos. Now we have cocaine fishing. Probably not much better than that. So, well, on that awesome note, I don't have a uplifting story from about a Florida man, but I do have a amazing story about a Texas woman. So this story comes right from the BBC. I'm not sure why the BBC is covering a Texas woman, but the headline is Texas woman injured after hawk drops a snake on her. So Texas woman was attacked by a hawk and a snake at the same time after the bird, which eats the snake, accidentally dropped the wriggling serpent on her. So Peggy, a 64-year-old, not sure why that matters, was mowing her lawn, last month when a passing hawk just happened to be passing by, dropped a snake on her before swooping down and angrily trying to reclaim its meal. The snake wrapped itself around her arm and began striking her face as the bird sunk its talons deep into her flesh. The terrifying ordeal left her with cuts and bruises on her arm and face. The bizarre incident took place on the 25th of July in Silsbee, Texas, near Louisiana border. It began after a snake suddenly fell out of the sky and landed on her while she was mowing. Before she could remove it, the hawk attacked, and all went downhill from there. She says, as I was trying to sling my arm and sling the snake off, the snake wrapped around my arm, she told CBS. The snake was striking my face, striking in my face. It struck my glasses a couple times. I was slinging and slinging. He was striking and striking, and he just kept hanging on. She realized it must have been dropped by a passing bird, since she was not standing under any trees when it happened. Her assumption was quickly confirmed when the hawk swooped down and joined in the melee. Then the hawk appeared, just as fast as the snake appeared, Jones said. Or her last name is Jones, so Miss Jones said. The hawk grabbed the snake that was wrapped around my arm and pulled it like it was going to try to carry it away. And when he did, it flung my arm up, and the hawk was carrying my arm and the snake with it. The hawk struggled to remove the snake from Miss Jones's body, stabbing her with its talons repeatedly in its attempt to snatch back its food. Man, there were puncture wounds, cuts, abrasions, scratches, severe bruising. She said, adding that the snake's attack to her face damaged her glasses also, just to add insult to injury. I've actually seen a hawk pick up a snake. That's something they do. That's how they kill their prey, she said. But now, she says, it's something that she will keep in mind. I mean, holy Moses, this lady just not only was she just minding her own business, trying to take care of her yard, all of a sudden a snake drops on her. The snake not only just drops on her and you think, oh, the snake fell off or, hit the ground. The snake, while still in good spirits, wrapped around her arm real fast and started striking her in the face. So then, while trying to fight the snake off, this hawk comes down and grabs the snake and her arm and tries to take off with both of them. Luckily, her arm was attached, and she didn't lose that. And there you go. Snake attack while being attacked by a hawk. So I think that is our feel-good story of the day. You just have to check back for some more. I've got some more on the list here. I don't think we're going to get to them today. This is Aaron. Because meatless meat, lab-created meat, is just not meat that I want to eat.
Remember to follow, like, and share the Why I'm Angry podcast across all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast. The Why I'm Angry podcast ends now.